I want to raise the question on trade, which was already alluded to in the context of health, and that is the GATS, something I worked on a lot in France because we had a huge campaign in Attack, my organization, to get local governments at the municipal, department and regional level to declare themselves GATS-free zones. The reasoning being that there was no point appealing to the WTO, which is the umbrella organization of the GATS. They would just say, we're the secretariat, we have no jurisdiction, ask your government. We knew it. There was no point asking Europe because they think anything free trade is great, and Peter Mandelson is working flat out to increase the free flows of trade. So we thought maybe we can get their attention, if we get, and France's attention, if we get a lot of local governments to say we are GATS-free zones and we are not going to accept that our hospitals, our schools, our transport networks, our waterworks, etc., be privatized. So we got over 800 collectivités territoriales, as we call them, local governments of one size or another, and they declared themselves GATS-free zones. And so we did get a certain amount of press and a certain amount of recognition. We didn't win, but we weren't actually expecting to win. So I'm telling you this story because GATS, like the other WTO agreements run by the WTO, GATS is particular in the sense that it's run through what is called a request-offer process. So the EU is negotiating for all of us, all the 27 members, Peter Mandelson. But he must ask the member states what they are prepared to offer. What are the services on their territory they are prepared to open to foreign competition? And Europe asks other countries to open up their services, including the developing countries, where they ask more than 70 to open up their water sectors, for instance. Okay. Now, with the Lisbon Treaty, Europe will have, for the first time, what is called a single legal personality. And this changes the way Mandelson has to negotiate, because now Europe can sign agreements by itself, it can act diplomatically, and it can put on the table entire sectors under the GATS, and it can say, Europe will give you a market of 450 million people. Now, I confess right now, I may be wrong on this, and if we have a lawyer here, I would be very interested to hear their point of view, someone versed in European or international law. But I have put this to several people who I think are very well informed, and they have been in agreement that Europe will have the capacity to simply to say, we open our markets in services, and what do you offer in return? It will be the bargaining chip. It might be a way to save, they want to keep agriculture, or it could, I don't know what they'll ask for. But this seems to me to be extremely dangerous. The other thing is that in the treaty, it now specifies, and I have to get this phrase right, that the aim of Europe is to integrate all countries into the world trading system through the, what's the word? Abolition. It's not abolition. I forget what it is.
Progressive abolition.
Is it abolition?
Progressive abolition.
Barriers to trade.
Barriers, yes, of barriers to trade. And then it adds the clause, barriers to foreign direct investment. and other barriers. Now, other barriers means what Peter Mandelson is doing right now, and that is also what foreign direct investment means. They are going after any number of markets, no matter how small, particularly in EPAS, the Economic Partnership Agreements with the poor countries, the ACP countries, Africa, Caribbean, Pacific countries, 78 countries, some of them the poorest in the world. And they are attempting to get those countries not only to reduce their tariffs at the entry point, but trade now goes well beyond the border. And Mandelson is really interested in what he calls the beyond borders barriers. And that means any obstruction, any restriction on trade coming from an environmental regulation, from a consumer protection regulation, and he wants to have total freedom of foreign investment for European transnational corporations. And to do that, he must strike down any foreign direct investment codes, meaning no restrictions on the number of companies, no restrictions on the number of companies in a given sector, no leaving out sectors, have to leave the whole economy open. He wants no restrictions on levels of investment, not limited to 49%, no calls for local content or a certain number of local jobs provided, etc., etc. And the other thing he is demanding is access to government procurement, which is usually a big source of revenue for local companies, and many governments restrict their government procurement contracts to local companies. So all of this is going to be extremely dangerous for us because our various sectors can be offered on the table to foreign competition, come one, come all, invest in the health sector of Ireland or whatever, and it won't be just Americans, it could be Brazilians or whoever. And because this is going to be extremely harmful also, already is, to the developing countries and to our partners. So I've been trying to argue this with the development organizations here in Ireland, that it's all very well to have perhaps an attractive development chapter in the treaty, but what's going to happen with trade could easily negate that. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I've been kind of long.